Hi, welcome to another episode of I Can Alteryx That with coaches Alex and John. I'm John. Today, we're going to cover Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 211, Generating Email Addresses. Let's get started. Alright, Weekly Challenge number 211, Generating Email Addresses. So, in this challenge, we've been given a data set, one column, one record. It's a bunch of people's names separated by commas. Some of the names have middle names, like Shannon Barry Thomas. Some of them don't. And then each name has a random number appended at the end. Our goal is to take those names, create an email address for each of those names, group each email by the first letter of the first name, and then to count how many emails are in each group. So to do that, the first thing we need to do is split out all of these things to get each name individually. So I'll use a text to columns tool, and we'll split by a comma into rows. That way, every single time there's a comma, we get a new row. So the next thing we need to do is separate each of these names, the first, middle, and last name, into a separate column. So to do that, I'm going to use a regex tool. We'll parse the columns tool, regular expression. In brackets, we have negate, \s, close, and a plus. So this is how you tokenize by space. And we'll separate into 3 columns, even though we don't necessarily know if there will be 3 columns. I'm sure there's a better way of doing that, but this is what came to me first. And oftentimes, the first try is good enough. So you can see here, Shannon Barry Thomas, we use all 3 columns, but if there's no middle name, the last name is instead in the user's 2 column. So what I'm going to do now is pull up a formula tool, and this is where all of the real work is going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and create a last name column, and this is going to say if, let's go back to the data, if this column, users 3, is null, then take users 2. Otherwise, take users 3. So if is null, users 3. So if that is null, then users 2, else users 3. Go ahead and run that so we can see what we've got. So we now have the users 3 column with the number attached. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is separate the name and the number. Actually, you know what? Let's do this a little differently. What's the best way to go about this? Because we don't want those numbers there. Oh, why don't we do this? Last name, we'll do a regex replace. So we'll say, for last name, we will match all numbers and we'll replace them with nothing. There we go. So now we have our last name column. So now let's go ahead and build our email field. So this will be the first letter of the user's 1. And up in the instructions, this says that sometimes we have lowercase. So let's go ahead and do left of the uppercase, users 1, length 1. So that way we have a capitalized first letter. And this will be concatenated with title case of last name. And then we have our email at, and it says up here we want it to be called at testemail.com. And if we were to go ahead and run this now, I think those all look good. So remember, we need to have an email group, so we also need a field for that first letter. So we'll call this email group, and this will just be left upper, of users 1, or we could do of email. It doesn't actually matter here. It'll be the same thing. Okay, so we have our email group, we have our email, and there's one more instruction here. In your output, exclude any users without a valid name, i.e., the name does not include a number. So let's do one more thing in this formula tool. We'll call this valid email, or valid name. And here we'll look at, we want to say, does users2 or users3 contain a number? So we'll say, again, if is null users3, then, so if users3 is null, then we're looking at users2, and we want to see, let's do a regex match of users2, and let's see, does it have a number in it somewhere? Oh. So some amount of text, and then there's our regular expression. Else, oops. This will be users 3. Let's go ahead and run that and see, do we have any that are not valid? I'm going to scroll through here really quickly. You see almost all of them are -1s. Oh, hey, look at that. An NA. So it looks like we have one record that's not valid. So we'll go ahead and filter that one out. So our valid name equals -1. So now instead of 300 records, we should have 299. Okay, that's good. Now the last step, we're going to go ahead and summarize this data. So summarize, we'll group by email group. Now in email, you can actually concatenate in here. So go to add, string, concatenate. And if we look at the data, the results data, they're concatenated with a semicolon separator. So we can change that down there. And then finally, we're going to count each email. And we'll call this email. Let's go ahead and run this. And now we should have the right answer. 23 to 23. And we'll just bounce back and forth. I don't see any differences. All right, it looks like we did it. So just like that, we use a text to column to tokenize to rows by a comma. We used a regular expression to tokenize on a space character. We wrote several string functions. In a formula tool, we filtered and summarized. But there you have it. There is our solution to Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 211, generating email addresses. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Data Coach channel for more awesome lessons on Alteryx and all things data analytics and visualization. Follow Data Coach on Twitter at AskTessellation and follow me personally at jemery_dataviz. Thanks again.